Hello, guys. Welcome to Cheater's Diary. Today, we're checking out some Reddit stories. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too? You won't want to miss a moment. Stay glued. This story comes from cheap_map4335, and it begins like this. There was a time when I laughed without thinking twice. Carefree. Rich bursts of laughter that came so easily when life felt full of possibility. I was once an extrovert who thrived with friends by my side, conversations flowing into the night, my dreams alive and shimmering just within reach. But now, as I sit quietly watching my sleeping children, my 6-year-old and my 1-year-old, their gentle breaths the only sound in the dim room, I barely recognize the woman I've become. 2 children, aged 6 and 1, are the center of my universe. Yet I feel like nothing more than a ghost holding it all together. I glance at the faded wedding band on my finger, a symbol that once promised partnership and support, now a weight crushing my spirit. My husband, the man I trusted with my heart, was careless toward me during both pregnancies. The first time, I told myself it was just stress, a rough patch to endure. But during my second pregnancy, after his solemn promises of a better experience, that hope was shattered. Arguments were constant throughout the pregnancy, and heartbreakingly, on the very day I gave birth. Even the morning of delivery was marred by conflict, as if the pain wasn't enough. I remember lying in the hospital bed, holding our newborn, when 7 hours later, he was still locked in confrontation instead of celebration. It felt impossible to hold on to joy when everything in me was aching, physically, emotionally, mentally. Then came the darkness I barely admitted to myself. Postpartum depression, a suffocating cloud settling over me like an unshakable shadow. 1 month after the birth of our youngest, desperate and shattered, I told him, I don't know if I can stay in this marriage. Instead of compassion, I was met with cold planning for divorce. His vision of life apart, laid out with clinical precision. Yet, here I am, juggling his newfound passions that seemed to flourish effortlessly. Golf games, promotions, a new business launching, friends multiplying as if he's living a different life entirely. Meanwhile, I'm lost in a relentless routine, caring for our children, managing his family's needs, and maintaining a house that never feels like home anymore. How did I become this? The woman who was once full of life and laughter is now trapped in a cycle of silence and invisible labor. My own ambitions buried beneath layers of sacrifice. My education, a master's degree, feels like a distant relic from another lifetime. I put my career on hold, believing in him and our future. Now, he expects me to support his career ambitions, take care of the children, and do all the housework. When I insist on returning to work, he suggests part-time work-from-home jobs, so I can still manage everything else. He doesn't support my dreams. He wants control wrapped in the guise of practicality. It's suffocating. I feel financially dependent and utterly trapped. The very thought of leaving terrifies me. Fear of the unknown, of being left to fend alone, of becoming one of those statistics I secretly dread. But deep inside, I know, if I am to survive, I have to find the courage to reclaim myself, my dreams, and my freedom. After I gave birth to my second child, the world I knew shifted beneath my feet. At first, I thought the exhaustion was just part of new motherhood. The sleepless nights, endless feeding, the tiny cries that pulled at my very core. But as the weeks wore on, a heavier weight settled in my chest, one that no lullaby or gentle touch could soothe. I felt myself unravel in silence, trapped in an invisible cage. The light in my eyes dimmed, replaced by a haze of hopelessness, making even the simplest tasks feel monumental. It was one particularly overwhelming night, when my baby's wails seemed unending, and my own tears spilled silently into the darkness, that I realized this wasn't just sadness. It was something more profound, a chasm of depression threatening to swallow me whole. 1 month postpartum, I dared to voice the truth I'd been hiding from everyone, including him. I'm struggling. I'm not sure I can do this anymore, I confessed in a trembling voice. The words should have brought comfort, understanding, and a hand to hold. Instead, they sparked a chilling response. Divorce plans laid out coldly, a vision of life unraveling into separation. The betrayal cut deeper than any wound, but it crystallized my resolve. I knew I had to fight, not just for my marriage, but for my survival. Quietly, I began seeking help, diving into stories of others who'd walked through the darkness of postpartum depression and emerged stronger. I found solace knowing I wasn't alone. Like Elaine, who found light through medication and steady care, and Lizette, who battled cultural stigma and isolation, I started to see a glimmer of hope. Though his involvement wavered, his priorities shifting to golf games, promotions, and new friendships, I found strength in small victories, convincing him to let our youngest attend daycare so I'd have moments to breathe, planning my return to work despite his reluctance, dreaming of a life where my identity wasn't defined by sacrifice. This was my awakening, the first step to reclaim myself from the shadows. Days turned into weeks, and with every passing moment, the ache inside me grew louder, demanding acknowledgement. I realized staying in this space, constant exhaustion, emotional drain, walking on eggshells, was slowly devouring what little sense of myself remained. My mornings became punctuated with quiet reflection and planning. I looked at my children sleeping, their tiny fingers clutching my shirt, and silently vowed to break free, not just from the toxic relationship, but from the invisible chains of dependency and fear keeping me tethered. I knew my first step would be to restore my career. My education and skills were still within me, waiting to be reawakened. The thought of returning to work was terrifying. What if I failed? What if he used my ambitions against me? Yet beneath the fear, a quiet resilience blossomed. I began making small plans, researching jobs, updating my resume while the kids napped, secretly saving money from limited resources. Each tiny move was a victory, a rebellion against the life that kept me small. I also reached out to women's support groups online, sharing my story in whispers at first, then with growing confidence. Others had battled similar darkness and come out on the other side. Their stories of recovery, regained agency, and hope lit a fire within me. One evening, while browsing my phone after the kids fell asleep, I found a story that struck a chord. Caitlin's journey, from postpartum depression to rediscovering herself. Her story echoed every silent tear, every quiet prayer, every fleeting moment of hope I clung to. That night, I made a pact with myself. I would plan my escape, step by step, until I was free to breathe again. It wouldn't be easy. There would be pain, uncertainty, and a hard fight ahead. But I owed myself that much. I deserved a life where I was enough, not just for my children, but for myself. Recovery was neither swift nor linear. I learned postpartum depression was a mountain, steep and rocky, with uncertain paths and hidden obstacles. Some days I climbed high, catching glimpses of sunlight and hope. Other days, I slipped back into shadows. My doctor told me most women notice improvement within weeks of starting treatment, though full recovery often takes months. That idea comforted me as I committed to therapy and self-care, knowing this battle wasn't one to rush. I made regular visits to my counselor, a patient ear to unravel tangled emotions and buried hurts. Medication dulled the sharp edges of despair, but daily rituals restored my spirit. Journaling small victories, practicing deep breathing when panic crept in, allowing myself moments of genuine rest without guilt. My support network grew slowly. The few friends who understood, online groups where stories mirrored mine, even distant family members who extended their hands when I allowed it. I learned not to isolate myself, even when depression urged me otherwise. It was a gradual rebuilding of trust with myself, a reclaiming of power. Slowly, that spark of the extroverted, vibrant woman I once was flickered anew. During this time, I laid the groundwork for leaving. I carefully planned financial steps, researching jobs matching my qualifications that offered flexibility for my children's needs. I arranged daycare for my youngest, a monumental step that gave me pockets of freedom to focus on my goals. Though he resisted my ambitions, I grew resilient to his disapproval. I saw clearly that staying meant sacrificing my sense of self, and my children deserved a mother who was whole. The hardest part was not knowing what lay ahead. Could I balance career and motherhood alone? Could I survive the legal and emotional battles he'd already hinted at? But the woman, watching my children sleep, whispering promises of change, was no longer the woman who accepted defeat. I was a warrior, preparing to step into the light once more. The day I finally decided to leave, the air felt charged with both fear and fierce determination. I packed quietly while the children played. Every folded shirt and carefully chosen item, a small declaration of independence. The knot in my stomach tightened, but beneath it was a steady drumbeat of courage I never knew I still had. I wasn't just leaving a marriage. I was breaking free from years of silent suffering, hidden tears, dreams put on hold. The road ahead was uncertain and daunting, but for the first time in years, it was mine alone to walk. As protests came, sharp words, pleas to stay for the kids, attempts to bind me with guilt and fear. But I had spent too long in the shadows to be pulled back. My plan was solid, my spirit steeled by months of healing and preparation. With the support of newfound friends, legal counsel, and my own growing self-belief, I began to rebuild. The first paycheck from my new job felt like a triumph far beyond numbers. It was a symbol of rebirth. Late at night, when the house was still and my children peacefully asleep, I rediscovered the woman I once was, vibrant, strong, and capable. The woman who laughed freely, dreamed boldly, and knew her worth. I understood now that my journey wasn't just about escaping a toxic relationship. It was about embracing myself fully, flaws and all, forging a life defined by my own terms. The past will always be a part of my story, but it no longer holds me captive. The future stretches wide and bright ahead, a canvas waiting for me to paint with colors only I can choose. And as I look out the window one calm evening, a quiet smile touches my lips. For the first time in a long time, I feel the exhilarating thrill of hope. I am free, and I am ready to live. That brings us to the end of today's story. But what do you guys make of this story? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories. Your love, your support, your time, it always means the absolute world to me. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more stories. So, thank you so much for being involved, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.